Okay, so what we're going to be looking at is absolute values and how to graph these on a coordinate plane and not a number line like what we've done before. So now we're going to take absolute values like y equals the absolute value of 3x, and we're going to graph it on a coordinate plane. Okay, and absolute values always come up with these type of shapes, which is like a V. Okay, it can either be opening up or it's opening down, and then we can shift it. And the main thing we want to identify here is the vertex or the turning point of these and the slope in which they're going up and down. That's the two things we want to identify whenever we're dealing with these absolute values. So we want to find the vertex and we want to find the slope on both sides, or the equations of those two lines. Okay. So that's what we're going to do. So the vertex is called the turning point. Okay, and to identify that, we're going to take whatever the absolute value is and we're going to zero it out. If you look in the first case, we have y equals the absolute value of 2x plus 5. So what we'll do is that we'll take just the absolute value part, 2x plus 5, and set it equal to 0. Okay, we're trying to zero it out. What does x have to be to make it 0? And then from here you'll just solve it normally like you're solving an equation. So you move the 5 to the other side. By subtracting it, dividing by 2 gets you your negative 5 halves. And that is where the x value is for its turning point. Now if you want to find the y value of it, so if you wanted to find the coordinate, you take this and then you plug it back in. And as you see here, for this vertex we end up getting negative 5 halves, 0. So that would be the vertex of the first one. And now the second one, what do you plug in for x to get a 0? Obviously 0. You plug 0 and 0 times 5 is 0. And so this turning point would be 0, comma 0. Okay? And so finding the vertex, you zero it out. So whatever's inside the absolute, set it equal to 0. Just inside the absolute, set it equal to 0, and then it'll tell you your x value. And then to find the y value, you just take that x value and plug it back in to the original problem and solve it. Alright, so graphing. So graphing, the first thing you want to do when you're graphing is that you want to find your vertex. Okay, so solve the absolute value part out, and then the absolute value, set it equal to 0, solve it, and find that vertex. Once you have that vertex, the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find the equation of the two lines that is created from the absolute values. Okay, and what you'll do is that you'll take your absolute value or your equation. So let's say we have y equals the absolute value of 3x plus 12 absolute value plus 7. Okay, so there it is, right there. And so the first thing we have to do is find my vertex. So I'm going to set it equal to 0, just this part. So what do I have to plug in here to get it equal to 0? Well, that's going to be a negative 4. Okay, so that's going to be my x value. And then my y value, actually in this case, is 7. So there's my vertex. After that, the next thing was to break it up into the two equations. Your first equation is the original, just without the absolutes. 3x plus 12 plus 7, which reduces down to 3x plus 19. So there's one. Your other one, you're going to take the absolute part and you're going to multiply it by a negative. So a negative 1. And then solve it all the way through. That gets you negative 3x minus 12 plus 7. Gets you a y equals negative 3x minus 5. And so then you'll graph both of these equations. Graph both of them, and then you'll see it should intersect at negative 4, 7. Okay? That's where they should intersect. And then from there, okay, then you just have to identify if it's the top part or the bottom part. And to identify if it's the top or bottom, you look out front. This is a positive in front of the absolute. That means we take the top part. Alright, so graphing this. So the first thing we have to do is find our vertex. So we got to zero out the absolute. So we'll take 3 over 2x plus 4, set it equal to 0. Move the 4 to the other side by subtracting 4. Gets us 3 over 2x is equal to negative 4. And then we're going to multiply by 2/3. Multiply by 2/3. So that means our x value is going to be about a negative 8/3. Okay? Negative 8/3. So there's our turning point, is at that point. That's where our vertex will be, is when x is that. And actually the coordinate will be let me erase that, will be negative 8/3 comma negative 3. So there's our turning point. Okay, after that, what was the next thing that we do? Well, the next thing we do is that we break it up into its two equations. Okay? And its two equations would be, we take the original, so y equals 3 over 2x plus 4 minus 3, solve it all the way through, 3 over 2x plus 1, and then the second one, it'll be a minus 3 over 2x minus 4 minus 3, which would be minus 7, negative 3 over 2x is equal to y. And the main thing we're looking at here is the slopes. Okay, so we've got a positive 2/3 and we got a negative 2/3, and then we can start at negative 8, negative 8/3, negative 3. Okay, so as you see here, it's solved all the way through, step by step. All right. So now we want to graph this. So our vertex was at negative 8/3, negative 3. Okay. So we're going to put a point at about negative 8/3, which would be, and negative 3, which would look like it's about right there. Okay. And now if you remember our slope was 3 over 2. So we're going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and over 2. 1, 2. Right about there. And then we're going to go up 3 and then back 2. 1, 2. And then so we've got our line. We've got one right about there, all the way through to the other side. And we've got another one that looks like it's about right there, all the way through. And then, since it was positive, we would take the top part of it. And so there's us graphing our absolute values. Okay? So it's kind of a step-through-step process, takes some time. All right, your IRAT. Please identify the vertex of each of these three and then graph each one. Okay? So bring that into class tomorrow.